my sweet friends. Welcome to this week's episode, The Art of Taking a Mental Health Day. Well, why rest is extremely good for your soul. And you know that I have a lot of opinions about it, but first, let me introduce myself. This might be your first time with us, and I'm so excited you're here. My name is Jessica Stong, and I love to talk about psychology, how cognitive behavioral therapy and coaching intersect with how we live our lives. We dive into psychological theories, cutting edge research, I would say cutting edge research, and actionable tips to improve our lives. So I am so thrilled that you've decided to join us this week. And I just need to be clear, today's going to be a little bit different. We're focusing on something that I particularly often overlook, or a lot of us overlook, and that is the need for a mental health day. And I'm going to talk about what that is, about what it's not, about what it looks like and how to do it. And just we all know what it's like to navigate the hustle and bustle of life, and what that looks like and feels like for all of us is different, right? You might have needs, family needs, you might have career expectations, you might be caretaking for a family member. I want you to think about what is important to you, how you juggle your jobs, your social commitments, the family, the challenges that come with our day-to-day living now. And we often don't have the space to take a breather, or we sometimes take a breather in a way that isn't good for our soul. And this is a real pause, not just collapsing on your bed after the end of the day. I'm saying this to myself, watching TV, zoning out. I'm talking about consciously setting aside time to recuperate, restore, and really pour into yourself, into your emotional and mental well-being. And so what does this entail? How does it work? And why is it so crucial for our mental health? And not only that, but the enrichment of our souls. So that's what we're going to explore in today's episode. Now, first, I want to talk about what is a mental health day. Before we dive into the mechanics and the how-tos and the challenge I have for you this week, I want to demystify what that might be, because there's a lot of ambiguity around the term. And I'm just going to take a quick sip of my coffee. So a mental health day is more than just a day off work or school or devoid of chores and family commitments or errands. It's a 24-hour period, or 12-hour, or I've taken a mental health day whilst my children were at school. Its primary agenda that you have for this day is soul care, self-care, for your well-being, your emotional well-being. It's a day to consciously break from the loop of stress and worry and overwhelm and responsibilities, to focus exclusively on resting and of being present to your needs, or being present to your thoughts and rejuvenating those emotional reserves that we all need to. I call it a system reboot. If you know me, I need it for our mental software. Just like a computer needs to restart sometimes, we need that reset button that helps us understand. And this means we disengage from emails, from work emails. We don't do household chores for a day. We set boundaries, both physically, digitally, and spend time. It's like this self-imposed period of hibernation, and we walk away remarkably more refreshed, resilient, more centered. And so we know that there's this idea of a sick day when we're physically unwell. But we take that when we need it. We often, what I see as a mental health day is the day that you plan in advance, not when you're in crisis. Yes, sometimes we need to take a mental health day when we're in crisis, but what if we could just regularly schedule them once a quarter, even if it's for 5 hours, even if it's for 24 hours? What would that look like for you for a day of just rest and restoration? And so that's really what constitutes a mental health day, is this idea that we just pause and take a breath and pour into ourselves the way that we often pour into others. So I do need to say why it's important, these mental health days, because I think it's crucial that we understand why it matters. Because on the surface, we could say, yeah, I think it's a great idea, but I don't have time for it. It gives you time, yes, to turn off that mental chatter, or at least for a small amount, and reboot. And we know that our brains need that, just like we do it for our computers, and we do it to keep them from overheating, to keep them from struggling. I talked to someone yesterday and they were talking about how they have 1,000 tabs open or 1,000 programs in their brain. And it's like that with the computer. So how do we just turn it off just for a little bit to let it, the answer is always turn it off and then turn it back on again. I don't know if any of you have watched The IT Crowd, this show out of Britain. It's my favorite. It's old and it's beautiful. It's the best. I mean, is it old? No, it's not. It's like mid 2000. So no, I don't know when it was made. And we're just gonna, I don't re-edit these. So let's just, it's a great show. We're just going to go with that. So I want to talk about mental health days impact our physical health. We know that constant stress and overwhelm does impact our physical health. I know this on a deep level, that my stress impacts how I feel, acutely how I feel, and it can impact autoimmune flares. It can and as much as I don't blame myself and I don't blame others, I do know that I get to play a part in sometimes my experience of my illness. I'm always going to have we're always going to be dealt cards, but sometimes we can help manage those without blaming ourselves. This is a hard one for me to talk about. Even we know that stress impacts our immune system, heart disease, high blood pressure. So how do we play a role in that? Taking a mental health day can serve as a preventative measure. It's not going to, dramatically change things. That requires quite an overhaul, but it does, it will prevent and help us manage those physical health conditions. I believe, and this is the oddest thing, that it does impact our focus and productivity. When we've shut down all of those open tabs, we're able to focus on what matters the most. We get clarity. So we're not multitasking on 1,000 things when we come back. We're like, okay, we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to decide what's the one thing right in front of me. And that changes how we're able to produce in this world and our productivity. That breaks and rest. You guys, I love the Pomodoro technique only because it gives you a 5-minute rest, a 20-minute rest, because we think that we need to always be on, always be going, always be solving. I also believe that this helps our emotional well-being in big and dramatic ways. When we think about that consistent weight of the world on our shoulders, this changes our relationship with it, that we then decide, okay, what am I going to hold on to? What am I going to let go of? And the weight feels less when we know that we have like that emotional safety valve of this mental health day, allowing us to release built up weight, tension, stress, whatever it might be for you, improving our emotional well-being. I also believe it just helps with our personal growth. When we're pouring into ourselves, when we're giving ourselves 24 hours, 12 hours, 5 hours, it allows us to step back and reflect on what we care about, what truly is important to us, and it helps us move forward with greater clarity and growth. Finally, I believe this greatly impacts the quality of our relationships, the quality of our connections. I know this for me is that when I feel overwhelmed or burdened by the responsibilities that I feel others have placed on me, by being a mom, by being a wife, by, like those are really the challenges I struggle with. It really gives me extra space to notice and see that I have a choice and that I'm able to decide what I want to give and how much I want to give and how. So I believe it's so important. And it really does impact our relationships. People can tell when you've had space to breathe. And I want to talk about the stigma, though, as it relates to this. I would love everyone to embrace the need for rest and restoration and mental health days. However, I know this has been a real challenge of mine. A real challenge. I don't deserve, these are my thoughts. I don't deserve a mental health day. I have too much to do. I can't do this because look at all that's on my plate. No one understands. How dare someone else tell me to take a mental health day? Those are all the things that go through my brain and might be going through yours. And so it's really hard to embrace this concept. We need to acknowledge the elephant in the room, that there's a real stigma associated with breaks and with a day of no productivity in our society. And I think that especially in American culture, I forget how much we, after being away and then coming back, it was a real slap how much we work. And I love work. I love it. I wouldn't do it less. In fact, I choose to work. However, we all do, but however, it's just so much. When we talk about mental health in mainstream conversations, there's still a veil of shame. There's still a veil of guilt that we should be psychologically healthy regardless of what we do. It just should be there. So one, there's a workplace stigma. Many work environments still view mental health as taboo, and so we aren't allowed to talk about them. We're not allowed to say I need a mental health day because we are then labeled, or we might appear less capable or less committed. And so I think there's still this real need to, how do we talk about these? I'm just taking a day off. I love Parks and Rec, and I love when they have a treat yourself day. We all need that. Now, I disagree that that's not a mental health day because it's about consumerism, and we're going to talk about what a mental health day would look like. But I love that so much. Think about that workplace, a very different workplace than we often see in our everyday lives. There are also cultural factors that play into why there's such a stigma around this. That mental health is a sign of weakness or admission of defeat, and for us to take a mental health day is really admitting a lot about what's wrong, quote unquote, what's bad, and why would we need to recharge. And there's also, as I discussed before, the self-imposed guilt that we should be better, that if we have to take a mental health day, something's wrong with us, that we're failing. We impose guilt, that we shouldn't need it, that we should try harder, that we should be hustling all the time, that taking a break means that we're falling behind or that we're failing in some way. And so I just want to put that in the context and tell you that there are far more psychological benefits for rest for the soul. No, I need to go back to the stigma. I get it. And I believe that when we do the work, when we address and when we acknowledge, we name it, we can then tame it. And we can choose a different path. We can say, actually, I know that rest is good for my soul, that taking time, taking a break restores my mental energy. We're going to use that computer analogy again. We need to recharge. We need to shut down all of those tabs that are open. We know that taking rest enhances our experience of our lives and our connection with others. We know that it enhances our creativity and our ability to problem solve and see things and take different perspectives. It also boosts our emotional resilience in real and true ways. And that looks like equipping us to handle future stressors in beautiful ways that are unexpected and often not tied to the actual day of rest. So you're like, okay, I've heard enough. How do I take my mental health day? I'm ready. Sign me up, baby. I'm ready to go on this. Well, there are things that you can do. If you are in need of a mental health day and you're like, oh, I need it yesterday, and actually I'm in crisis, take it today. But I think it's really important to plan ahead. So you might want to take it tomorrow, right? Or I look at my calendar and I just plan it as like every quarter. And I just let people know. I put a alert on my email to say I'm out for the day. I'll be back tomorrow. I sometimes in the past I've even said I'm taking a mental health day to normalize this type of experience. I haven't done that recently just because I'm always, just writing it at the last minute. So plan ahead, do as I say, not as I do. Set boundaries, decide what you're going to do and what you're not going to do for that day. Make it clear that you're unavailable, perhaps for child pickup. That I don't do. I just make it work. I'll do it on a Saturday, but I've done it on a weekday, and I just do it in the time that I have a kid in school. This is your time, so you get to decide what you're going to do. I want you to choose your activities wisely. For me, and I'm going to say this, that it is personal to you. Watching TV doesn't feel restorative to me. Maybe like a 20-minute British Bake Off show is restorative, but if I can spend the whole day just zoning out on the television, and I have not restored my soul. For me, it's centering prayer, it's Lectio Divina, it's really just taking time to journal, write, think about what I'm feeling and dig into that and do all that emotional work that I might have been keeping on top of on the surface every morning in my morning downloads, but I need to dig into it and look at those deep schemas or scripts that are running underneath the surface, and that's the work. I schedule a session with a coach or spiritual director when I do those days, just so I have an outside perspective as well. I just love it. And I also think how to take a mental health day. Also, we need to talk about the need for advocacy. The key to breaking the stigma to these days is education and advocacy. And this really starts with us, right? Where it be the change you wish to see in the world. It starts with having self-compassion when we're feeling like we don't deserve it or shouldn't be doing it. It extends to others and encouraging others to take the time they need, really to pour in themselves for mental rejuvenation. I just love this for emotional health and well-being. It's about creating a culture where we discuss this, where we normalize this, where we talk about mental health days. Yes, in times of crisis, but in times of prevention, that we know that what we need is rest and time for our souls. And so I want to shift the narrative, if possible, away from mental health days being a luxury to a necessity. And I understand in that it's a very nuanced conversation, because some people cannot take a mental health day. They can't take time off work. They can't, right? They have no sick time. They have no paid time off. I get that. But could you take 30 minutes for yourself to sit in a bath, to just calm down, relax, take deep breaths, and just pour into yourself? And so how do we make it work for us in our time of need, in our time of just being human? It's a component of well-being. And I believe until we get there, taking a mental health day is often courageous. It's a real courageous act. It's a form of courage that we are all invited into. So I just love that idea, that I think taking mental health day is courage in action. What if we could think of it that way? So as we wrap up today's conversation, I just want to thank you. I want to honor you for listening and caring about your mental health, and knowing that there could be something more out there that would feel good to you. I have a list, I have a blog post of a list of all activities that I have used that have sustained me. So perhaps you're like, oh, I just don't know what I could do that day. Why don't you go to livesofcourage.com and look at the blog post? It's just right on the homepage. It should be updated. I'm saying that to myself because I'm the one that does that. But just look at some activities. It's more than a break from errands, from chores, from emails, from stressors. It's an investment in yourself, sweet friends. It's an act of self-love and self-compassion that has a ripple effect on you, the people around you, your career, the work you do, to your physical health and well-being. So I have a challenge for you. Our weekly challenge is for you to look at your calendar now. And this might be 3 months from now, but you're going to plan a mental health day. You're going to not wait until you're on the brink of a crisis, although you might be in crisis now, and I get it. I see you. I've been in crisis consistently. As you guys, if you've been listening to the blog, understand what's been going on in my family. And I have been in deep crisis and have been taking more than my self-allotted quarterly mental health days, because I've been broken and hurt and stressed beyond what I can share or understand even. And so, yes, you might need to take one now, but I challenge you to look at your calendar after this episode airs, after you've heard it. Pick a day in the future, whether it's next week, next month, even the month after, mark it as your mental health day. And then you're going to talk about it. You're going to treat it with the same level of commitment as you would a work commitment. It's non-negotiable, like a doctor's appointment. That's what I always say, even though sometimes I'm like, does it have to be? Do I have to go? So I want you to also reframe what this means to you. So I want you to think about what you're telling yourself about what mental health days are, and then you're going to just reframe it. You're going to name it to tame it, and then reframe it. And so I want you to think about why it matters to you, what the long-term payoffs might be for you. It's not just a single day. It's about cultivating a lifestyle where you are attuned to your needs, your wants, your desires, and really pouring into yourself, and what that might be like to be more centered, more filled with real joy that's a state of being, not just an emotion. But this will influence our interactions with others and our contributions to the world. And so we're going to break the stigma one day at a time, sweet friends. I think that what if we could tell ourselves and believe this? Because this is what I believe, that every time we take time for ourselves, we break the cycle. We tell people what we're doing. I'm doing it this Friday. We're making a subtle but powerful statement against the stigma surrounding mental health. This is important. I am important, and so is everyone else's well-being. So go ahead, please pull out that calendar, put something on there, mark a day off, and make a promise to yourself that you'll honor it. I would love to hear what days you'll be taking your mental health. If you want to, just send me a direct message on Instagram, or you can send me an email, hello@jessicastong.com. You don't know how much your messages mean to me. I get messages from clients 3 years ago, and every time I get them, I feel such deep gratitude for being able to walk with people in this work. So you could also tag us. That would be great too. But I also have a special request. If you have enjoyed this episode today, or if you have enjoyed episodes in the past, could you please share this message? Please share this podcast with someone who needs it. Or rate it. Make a comment. It means so much and helps me get this out to others. This is truly a gift to be able to share with you, and I'm just so grateful for any support that you give. Just reminding you and urging you that you deserve a mental health day. Take that brave step towards soul care, because courage isn't just about facing those external challenges. It's about having the courage to take care of ourselves. Until next time, live courageously, sweet friends, and remember, your mental health is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Okay? I love you all. Have a great and courageous week, sweet friends. See you soon.